philosophy.
Yeah, there you go.
Welcome to our recording as we're talking about Paul's philosophies here. trying to mix philosophy with Paul's name.
Yeah, it's a tough one, but good on you for trying.
Yeah. It's a tough sell, but I'm trying to be a customer.
Yeah. All right. So we got episode 15 here.
Woo, man.
Yeah. So basically, we were having a little bit of a conversation before this, and we were just thinking, why not just turn it's basically going to be probably just hit record. Yeah, it's going to be what I want to talk about anyway. It's going to be AI part 2 from last time. So for anybody that doesn't like artificial intelligence,
just turn us off now.
Yeah, or at least skip to Brandon's part.
I'll just skip to my part. My part's the truly interesting part.
Yeah, it'll probably be the opposite. It's all about nature and love and peace. And
no, it's not. It's not about AI, but it's not.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll see. We might put a timestamp for Brandon's part so people can just skip if they want. They're sick of this. But anyway, I've just been using the GPT-3 model that everyone's raving about. It's funny because you didn't hear anything about AI for or you'd hear about it maybe once every couple of months. Now it's like you can't open up YouTube without seeing someone being like, I made $5,000 with AI art, or whatever I don't know that they actually do, but that's the marketing.
Oh, I haven't seen those people yet, so that's cool. Huh.
Oh, you're not on the Hustler side of YouTube then.
Apparently I'm not on the Hustler AI part of the YouTube world. I'm still watching Rick Steves travel through Europe.
Nice.
Just watching that like last night. Anyway.
Probably way more entertaining. But yeah, basically everyone's just like generating these images and then trying to like sell them on Etsy as digital prints. Like, that took you 2 seconds, dude. You want to charge $15 for that? Okay. Anyway, so yeah, like I feel like it's kind of exploded now. I think they had the fastest amount of users like sign up to any given site of all time. So like when they released the model, it was like 1 million in 2 days or something.
Wow.
And I think it like took Facebook 2 years to do that, and Instagram like 6 months or something. But yeah,
and
so
it's the GSP. What's it? Do you know what that stands for or what that means?
Generative Performance Translator.
Yeah, sounds good to me. I don't know. I'll believe it. Yeah. Generative.
Yeah, something. Generative process transform.
Okay.
I think. Says nope. Stands for generative pre-trainer.
Pre-trainer. Oh, interesting.
I guess I was off on that.
Huh. And just for like all the moms who are listening, would you just explain like how do you interact with this thing?
Yeah, so I mean, I guess with most like artificial intelligence kind of has a broad definition, I think, in some sense. Because I think there's sometimes like an assumption it's like this magic box that it's AI, it just does stuff, you can make it do anything or whatever. But I think like a good way of looking at it is, or like a more broad definition of looking at it is basically aggregated data that has been like trained through algorithms to be able to like access that data in different ways. So depending on what the data is and how you're accessing it, you're going to get different results and different outcomes from it. So in the case of like GPT-3, you're accessing it like usually through like a chat interface. So like typing to it and stuff. And then basically it's using all the data it's been trained on, which I think it's a lot of like open web data, I believe they use. So you're getting access to a lot of the, like things like Wikipedia, all this kind of stuff that's compiled down. And then is able to be kind of spit back out in a way that's comprehensible to people. So, for instance, I mean, what was blowing my mind, because I've been wanting to, so kind of like going back to last week, I've been wanting to at least figure out what the place of like AI is in a responsible manner in like a society that's functioning well, basically. So I was like, well, I should at least get my hands on it and stuff. And I've been like, just following it loosely and stuff, but I've tried a little bit of the DALL-E 2 stuff, which is, there's like a couple main companies in the field right now. There's like Google, Microsoft, and I mean some Chinese companies, but then OpenAI is kind of like the newest startup, I guess, if you want to call it that. And so they have like 2 models, one that's mostly for images and one that's mostly for text. So yeah, I was like, well, I should at least just get my foot in the door, and I've kind of messed around with their image one a little bit. It's interesting. Like, I don't like, people are doing some cool stuff with it, but it never really like blew my mind necessarily. Like, I just kind of had been following it and knew about it. So when I tried this chat one, like, it's like, okay, I'm gonna just try to like do few different things with it and see like what it's capable of. And like the very first test I did just blew my mind, because I basically I'd seen people like trying to use it to learn or to like, come up with ideas. And so the first thing I was like, basically I had a few ideas for tests I wanted to run. One of them was I wanted to like generate a story off of like plot points. So like feed in like a couple plot points for a story and then see if it would like fill out the rest.
Oh, that's super interesting.
Yeah. And then if it would fill out the rest with like coherent text that like sounds good and reads well. So I was like, I don't even know like how to go about that necessarily. So I typed in the interface, I was like, how would I go about, like writing a story using like this generative AI, giving it only plot points. And then it spit out like a detailed list of like 5 steps to like which model to use, like how to do it, like what's the best way to word it. So like it gives you this whole outline for this like really complex process that's like not necessarily intuitive for like a computer normally.
Wow, that's kind of crazy.
Mm-hmm. And so then it was like, here's like, a couple popular models that people use and stuff like that. And then, from there, since it also remembers what you're typing into it, it like remembers the conversation in a sense. And so it can refer back to like earlier things a little bit. And so from there, I was able to be like, oh, I've never heard of this model. Like, what's this model? And then it would like go and explain all that. And it'd be like, well, this model is used by the University of Canada to like, interface in this way, and it's better for short stories. I was like, oh, that's interesting. And then it would use like a term in there that I didn't understand. I'd be like, I don't understand this term. What is that? And then it would like explain that term. And then you'd be like, so it's just, you can go like infinitely deep with the information and kind of like guide your own learning. It's like if you had a question, I don't know, like it blew my mind, because it's like, it's probably like people using Google for the first time, where you were like, type in something like, I don't know, cat pictures, and it's like, whoa, like anything I can think of, it just shows me, But now I think that's even becoming a little bit limited, where, it's like, it's actually kind of hard to find the information you really want, that's like really, or more obscure, I guess, because you'd have to surf through thousands of web pages maybe to find that like one little piece of information that you're looking for. And so, yeah, it was like, it felt like the new age of like search and information. And it was pretty mind blowing.
Wow. That's interesting. Gosh. I mean, it just makes me think of like how we've gone from typing things in to you voice command, your, what's it called? Alexis or, Echo device or things like that. And now we're getting to this place where, yeah, you can type in and almost have like a conversation where it's like, it remembers the conversation. It's like almost getting to know you, I mean, we should just have it on the show as a guest at this point, like
you could, yeah.
what inspires you, GSP, whatever. I don't know what it's called.
Yeah, GPT-3. Yeah, you could.
Yeah.
I mean, you could do that. It would have an answer for that. It's like,
Wow, that's interesting.
I don't know that it would be like a coherent or true answer, but it'll spit something out for you. That's for sure. So, yeah. And then basically from there, I was like, okay. So then I did the plot points thing, and I put in, just like a little story, like some guy, goes get some food or whatever, and then whatnot. But yeah, so I put in maybe a paragraph's or like 4 sentences worth of plot points, and then it spit out like a 1-page story that was like perfectly coherent based on those plot points. And it filled in the dialogue, it filled in everything.
Wow. I mean, how many like pages of story was it?
Just like a page.
Just 1 page. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. That's pretty cool, dude.
Based off like, 1 paragraph of like plot points. So yeah, it was like, whoa, I might never write again. I don't know.
I mean, that would be interesting if you wrote a novel that was like, this is a 100% AI generated novel. I just gave it prompts and it wrote the book. So that would be a very interesting, like I would read that book just for like the interest of what this book has to say, knowing that it's all AI created,
People have done that. Yeah. And so, I mean, people go even one step further and then have the AI even generate the prompts for the plot points.
Oh, that's whoa, that's a whole nother layer to the matrix there.
Yeah, right. So I don't know. Like I see that as fun, but I don't like the value is still in question for me, I guess, from something like that. It's definitely a novelty and fun. Don't get me wrong, but yeah. And then the other thing too was like crazy was I took some of like my own writing, excuse me. And, well, like first I messed some of it up. So I like messed up the spelling in some areas. I messed up the grammar in other areas. And then I entered that in and I was like, hey, can you fix this please? And then, or like fix it and edit it or whatever. And then it just spit it all back out, just fixed and edited. So all the spelling was fixed. All like the punctuation was where it needed to be, everything like that. I was like, oh, that's cool.
Oh, like, free copy editor.
Exactly. Yeah. And then, cause like, I mean, grammar just follows rules, right? So it's not even the hardest thing for a computer to do normally. Your Google Docs can like tell you when something's, a little bit off with the blue line or something. But, this actually is much more fluid, I guess, to work with. And then I also put it in and then was like, so this is where the editing gets crazy because my first short story has a lot of run-on sentences and stuff. And so I put it in and I was like, basically all the things I didn't like with my writing, I asked it to fix. So I was like, there's too many run-on sentences. Some of the, sentences aren't punchy enough or like have enough impact. And then, basically that. And then I submitted it and then it sent back like a completely fixed or revised section of text with like, so it'd take, sentences that had 2 commas in it and like take them down to 1 comma or no commas. And then it would like split stuff up. And then, so it just completely fixed all my run-on sentences.
How long does it take to like process and think of this stuff?
Like a second.
Wow. It's not like loading 5 minutes later. We've corrected your thing. It's just instantly it knows how it should be.
Yeah. Text is super fast. So it spits it out like line by line, basically. Like it almost looks like someone was typing it super fast, which is kind of creepy. Wow. But yeah. And then I did and then I did a few tests with it to like so I would write something and I'd say make it more suspenseful, and then it like spits back something that's like more like it adds suspense to it. Or you can say like make it more playful and fun, and it like takes the same text and puts a new tone on it basically and like changes some stuff up. Or you can make it more descriptive and like, visual, and it like starts describing a bunch of like things that it makes up or draws from.
Dude, that's crazy. I mean, like, do you feel like it really had a lot of liberties in the story? It's like it would it create like a whole new character, or would it create a whole new, like, how would it make it more suspenseful? It's like suddenly a dinosaur came out and ate somebody. I mean, what kind of liberties would it take with that?
Mostly just by the language they're using. So it's like, you can increase tension by like someone walked out under the street lamp. It's like someone crept out into the street light, or whatever.
Okay. So just reframing the existing content.
Essentially, yeah. If you give it content, it will make up content if you want that. Oh, wow. But yeah, and sometimes it'll add things that are weird too, just on its own. But for the most part, it's a mix of your content and like, again, it depends what the prompt is too. If you're asking it to more make up something, it will. If you're asking it just to edit something, it will. So, and the thing is, it's not like, you're flipping switches and like, just saying, okay, now you're in edit mode. Now you're in this. It's all based off the language that you're just telling it, like you would tell somebody that was working for you, or, something like that. So that's the other astounding part, is that just through natural voice, like how you would speak to somebody else, like that's the perfect way to communicate with this, AI.
Wow. That's interesting. Gosh.
Because like with computers and stuff, a lot of times you have to like learn their it's like if you want to work with Photoshop or Lightroom or some sort of, video editing, it's like you have to learn that interface. It's not like it's adapting to your interface, which is language and communication. Like you have to learn where all the tools are and where all the buttons are and what the hotkeys are to like do your, exposure or whatever. Whereas with this, all the tools are built into stuff you already know and do with language. So it'd be like if you were using Lightroom and you said, like, typed in just like increase exposure by 30%, and you didn't have to go look for a tool to do that or something, So that's cool. That's the other mind blowing part. Yeah. Yeah. So
I mean, earlier you were saying that like some people have used AI to try to sell expensive paintings or something like that. Was that like a different program from this one?
Yeah. So that was like, people are mostly using, there's a couple different ones, but, people are using, well, mainly Midjourney, I guess, is probably one of the main ones. So that's like an open source, model that's trained on images. It's actually like, I think done through Discord mostly, of all things. But yeah, so people are able to generate images based off text prompts. So you type in whatever you want and it should make an image of it. And then you can tweak it from there.
And you felt like this current program where you're typing in the G thing, you feel like it was interesting. Yeah, sorry, I just can't remember all the numbers and letters. I'm just going to call it the G AI.
Just start calling it the generative pre-trainer model.
The generative pre-trainer model. G. Wait a minute, it's G generative pre-GP.
Yeah,
I'm obviously not as fast as that thing is. But you felt like it was kind of just a fun thing to play around with, but you didn't seem like you were taking it too seriously in terms of, is this going to like change people's industries or replace jobs, or is this going to be as groundbreaking as like the internet, or, like how intense is this going to be on people's culture, you think?
10,000%.
10,000%. I mean, you said that there was like 1 million subscribers in like a few days or something, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. It'll be like somebody trying to do business pre-internet versus like someone who didn't adopt it. I mean, everyone will eventually, I think, but if someone didn't use it in the near future, it would be like somebody trying to like do business with the internet or without it, like trying to sell their products in catalogs or something and, mail them out by hand. Like, I don't know. But yeah, so it's going to get into like a really weird territory because a lot of the problems that already are around, I think, are going to get worse. Like just, I mean, things like like, you know, how social media affects people and how they like target people with like negative news to promote engagement and stuff like that, you know.
Sure.
Advertising that just like tries to sell people meaningless stuff that they don't need and inundate people's emails with like, you know, ads, and try to like, you know, do conversion rate through sales with people, you know, and just like connect people to products that they don't even care about necessarily, but, you know, are pushed to buy. You know, so stuff like that will get worse for sure, just because you'll be able to target people better. You'll be able to, you know, push content better or faster, you know, just to flood people with stuff. So that's what I want to like try to figure out, how to avoid all that. But yeah, I don't know. Like the image one was the one I wasn't super hyped on. This chat one definitely like kind of opened up my mind in a few ways. Like I always knew AI was going to be big. It wasn't like that, but it's like a different kind of knowing, I guess, when you actually have used it and you're like, oh, okay, like this is when you just sit there like thinking WTF to yourself for like 10 minutes. You're like, what am I even like, what is this you know, like what's happening? I'm in like a science fiction novel right now, you know?
Wow.
It's like, it just feels like otherworldly kind of.
That's cool.
Yeah. So like I guess where I was going to go with that is kind of talking about creativity and inspiration within that world. And so I would love to hear your opinions, and I'll ask you a few questions maybe and see what you think of them.
Well, okay, just a couple of things that I wanted to unpack here. One, It sounded like there were two different avenues of tools, like the way you could use this tool for. It sounded like it was content creation and learning. You know, you can type in a prompt, generate something for me. Maybe it's like an image of something. Maybe it's a text. Bring this back to me. Or you could try to learn something new. That was some of the stuff that you were describing to me in terms of that. And it could help you generate like ideas. So that could be like a form of content creation, you know? But I'm just thinking about even another use for this. And this is really wacky. This is out there. But
there's millions.
What if you use this thing as like basically being your therapist? You know, you like type in, here's my psychological issue. I'm depressed right now. And then like, what do I do with that? Or you like are typing in your complaints and it's like listening to you and responding back. Like, please respond to me empathetically to my, like, whatever I'm talking about.
Console me.
I mean, there's just, I just think that's really interesting. You could, what if you even wrote a fiction about somebody who was depressed and their therapist was a AI robot thing? I don't know.
No,
but
it's interesting because people, you know, look back to the Industrial Revolution and they try to like draw parallels to artificial intelligence, like, because, you know, you say the Industrial Revolution, you know, and automation destroyed like, you know, low skill jobs and stuff like that. But like now it's almost the reverse, where I think the artificial intelligence will actually destroy the high end jobs more than anything. Because, I mean, not all of them, obviously, and it's not like destroying, but people will innovate and adapt. But, you know, you think about like, I think you brought up a good point with the therapist. It's like, you think about that, or like a doctor or something. You know, basically the jobs that are super critical, that require like attention and low margin for error, are like jobs that are great for computers and for, you know, these systems, because like it's kind of like the self-driving car thing. It's like, would you like yeah, it sucks if like a artificial intelligence car ever got in an accident, but like the chances of that are actually statistically way lower, you know, than just like humans driving cars. So it's like that is going to be like something that probably gets replaced first, just from an objective standpoint of being safer, you know. So if you, now if you had like a, you know, AI doctor or something, it's like, it's going to be able to listen to you better than a human would. It'll pay attention to everything you say. It'll like be able to log all that information. It'll have like perfect recollection of that information you gave it. And it'll be like, you know, you told them about a pain in your throat, like, you know, 10 years ago, and it has that on file, and it can just recall that, you know, without, you know, any memory loss, essentially. And, so it'll be able to put the pieces together a lot faster for you. And it'll be able to integrate maybe like scans that, come back from a lab and integrate that information into its model of your health and stuff. So I think there is definitely more room for replacing people in jobs that are critical that like there could be an error in. So,
yeah, I mean, I could definitely see some of these high level degrees, doctoral degrees, where it's like, if you can take, these 8+ years of information and put it into a computer from multiple different sources of books and different professionals who've been in the industry for a long time, then basically you're creating a professional that can be experienced by hundreds of people at the same time, thousands of people at the same time. And it's a professional that's not going to die and go away. They're just going to keep learning and improving and being available for everybody.
They're going to collect information from those other patients as well, and like thousands of patients rather than just dozens. Like you can even train, you could train it, with 1,000 lifetimes in it, just with the amount of information you can put in. So yeah, I don't know. I don't see why like someone wouldn't go that route for something critical like that. I mean,
wow.
Like I don't have much trust for doctors anyway in the first place. So I'd probably just take an AI just as, I don't know. Or like I would take anything with a grain of salt anyway. So I would just take AI advice just as much, I would guess.
I mean, it's just interesting if you think about how, like statistically, doctors will diagnose people in under a minute. I think it's even under 30 seconds of hearing the patient talk about their symptoms. Like very quickly, they gut reaction diagnose people like immediately. And one of the biggest issues in the medical world is misdiagnosis. Like that causes mistreatment and all kinds of different issues. If you were to think about an AI where it's like the AI literally is going to listen, like you need to have this patient write up this much documentation about their symptoms before we'll create a diagnosis. Like if you could just create the statistical error and say, okay, we're going to have an AI program that will not diagnose people until it's heard this amount, where we know at this amount we have the highest level of accuracy, then you kind of overcome that human error of the misdiagnosis, And a lot of stuff with diagnosis is pretty objective information. I mean, it's what are your signs and symptoms? If you have this type of symptoms, then honestly, it's just going right over to the textbook and being like, you have a runny nose, you have a headache, you have a sore throat. That probably means you have a cold. I mean, it's, it's like pretty easy to just sort of draw the conclusions for a lot of stuff.
Yeah. Kind of a protocol of what test, okay, what's this? So we'll do this test, or whatnot. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, I can see that replacing, a lot of just like your general practitioners, where people go and they see their first person who kind of looks over what their general health stuff is. And then from there, they might send somebody on to a specialist. I could see the AI taking over that role. And then, the AI is going to say, oh, well, it sounds like maybe you've got something more than a cold. Maybe it's pneumonia. So we're going to send you into this other specialist person. And then maybe you'd go see somebody in person, I don't know. I could definitely see that type of situation happening.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And that's just, one of 1,000 different areas that it'll disrupt. So like it's, the fact that it's already so powerful or like so proficient and like able to do what it does now is just kind of like indicative of,
does it have hands yet?
I don't know. Ask Elon's Tesla robot or whatever.
Okay, because it probably can't have hands that go into every person's house to rub their backs. So I think I'm safe. Anyway, keep going.
Sign me up. But yeah, so I think that's why there was such a big push for like data collection by these massive companies over the past 10 years. Like people don't really realize like how valuable data was. And you were just giving it all away, essentially. I mean, people knew, and you don't really get a choice. I mean, you do, but you don't, so like it was all leading here essentially. And I don't know if people were collecting all that data with that intention, but I think, these big companies knew that it was valuable, extremely valuable. And yeah, people just freely gave it to all these companies. Now they're, making these weird AIs with it. So, yeah, but my questions for you were, so it gets more into like the philosophy of creativity and like kind of inspiration. And so if you were to like write a story, like how much would you, because I looked up this service the other day that uses like the model, and basically it's kind of like a Word document, like Microsoft Word or something, but you basically are typing in, and then at any point you can just ask to like generate text or, edit text or whatever, if you get like stuck, on an idea or something, or writer's block or whatever. So like how much of a story do you feel like you would want? First of all, would you use any artificial intelligence to help you with the story? With a tool that easy, would you use it to write all of your story, none of your story, some of your story? And then if it is some amount, like what is that amount before you feel like you're losing your voice or you're losing what you're trying to say?
Yeah, that's a super interesting idea. If you're at least creating a prompt, or you're somehow interacting with the AI for it to create your content, at what point are you the creator of the content versus it's the creator of the content? And is that still like valid as your rights to that content or whatever? I mean, it's an interesting thought. Yeah. I mean, I think if I was intentionally writing a book to specifically try to write it with AI, like if I wrote a whole chapter using AI, or if I like specifically use the entire book, I'm just getting the AI to write this whole book for me, I would definitely say in the book, like, hey, I just sort of prompted this AI thing and it wrote the whole thing. And I think that would be interesting. Like, that would be cool to read a book like that. Like, oh, what does the AI think of me writing a science fiction or something? I don't know, whatever. Yeah. But I think if I used the AI, like, let's say that I had like a little writer's block over like, I don't know what kind of dialogue I need to have between these two characters right now. I just feel a little stuck. And I feel like I need some ideas to like spark some good like movement forward in my book. And I use the AI to do that. I don't know if I would necessarily like, maybe I would give it like a little acknowledgement in my section of the book. There's like, the AI helped me overcome a couple little writer's block hurdles, or I don't know. Thanks AI. Yeah, but I don't know if I would put too much weight on it. Like, it's still my book, it's still my content. It just kind of like sparked some thought for me. That's all I'm going to give it credit for. I don't know.
Yeah. So like, would you use something like that in your writing?
I don't know. I mean, I still have yet to even open their website or do anything with it. I don't know. Maybe one of these days I'll experiment and I'll get hooked on it and think it's fun. But I think for me, I feel like I have enough content ideas for the things I'm already making. I just need to like I don't feel like I need any more inspiration to make stuff. I feel like I know what I want to make. I just need to make the time to make it. Like, it just is time consuming, writing books or stories or recording or any of the kind of stuff that I want to do. It's just like some of the stuff is going to take years to make. I don't feel like I need new ideas though. I feel like I already have those.
For sure. Yeah. And like, yeah. And what's interesting is there is so many avenues that it can help out with. So would you use it if it saved you time? Like yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, if I needed to, yeah. I mean, if I was using it almost as my ghostwriter, like I know what I want to write, but it just needs to do the menial task of getting it done. I don't know. That would be interesting. Maybe I would. Like, if I said, here's my idea, you write out the large chunks of content and I'll come back and edit it, or maybe I'll even use it to edit itself later or whatever. I don't know.
Well,
that would be interesting.
You would technically be editing it by giving it feedback on certain points, because you can actually, like for the one I was using last night, it actually lets you regenerate the answer. So it like throws basically some different variables in and then regenerates a new answer. So it could like generate a new story or like a new edit, on your thing.
Yeah.
But
Maybe I'll use it to write my autobiography. I'll be like, retell this story from my childhood when I was 5. I don't know. I don't know.
As your childhood was on the internet.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if that would be possible, but
yeah,
I don't know. That would be interesting. Yeah, maybe just to save time, have it like write out different like chunks of text for you or something. But I almost wonder if it would make you end up doing more work in the editing process later, because I think one of the issues for writers is when they sit down, they write 200,000 words and realize they only want to use 80,000 of them. And then they have to go through this long process of self-editing and cutting things. And then it almost takes more time in the editing than it did in the actual writing. So I think that would be my one concern. I just got this AI to like vomit up a ton of text for me, and now I have to sift through it, and maybe I don't like it all and I've got to change it. Then I could be back with that same time-consuming dilemma again.
Yeah, I mean, you could ask for a certain exact amount of words, but which is crazy. But yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah, you'd have to like go through and read it again, and then like find the parts that you didn't like or wanted to change or whatever.
Yeah.
That's why like I think for me, like I would use like kind of the plot points idea of just like more control, I guess, on my end than something completely like randomly generated, or like, yeah, that was just like, say whatever, I'd try to like definitely have more like strict guidelines for that kind of thing. But yeah. So you're not opposed to like using it as a tool if it were something like that to, help your writing?
No, yeah, I would totally use that as a tool. I think that would be interesting.
You don't feel like it's undermining your creativity or your creative integrity?
No, because I feel like I don't feel like I would need something like that to do any of the writing that I want to do. But I think it would be interesting, almost like asking somebody for an opinion. Hey, here's my idea on something I want to write, and what do you think about that? And then them being like, oh, you should change it like this or that, or I would do it this way if I were you. I feel like it would almost be like asking a person, for feedback on something. And so I wouldn't be afraid to do that, because at the end of the day, whatever that it generates for me, you can just toss it or spin off of it, or maybe it's just there to give you some extra thoughts, see something from a different point of view, So yeah, I wouldn't be afraid of using that. Yeah.
So like, as long as you have a good internal sense of what you're trying to accomplish and like it sticks to that, then it's a tool and not like a crutch or something, or.
Yeah. I think it would be a tool for me. If somebody was like, I want to write a book, but I have no idea what I want to write about. Like, I'm just thinking about people who are trying to make blockbuster movies, Like I'm thinking about the people who made the new Star Wars movies, where basically they just stuck to what they thought would be safe and what would make money, and it ended up being horrible and everybody hates it.
Soulless.
Except for a few people who just, I don't know, sold their soul to Lucas Arts or whatever it is. I don't know. There's some diehard people who think it's great, but I think that they're in denial. But it's like, okay, you had a bunch of people who got together. They did not use any. I don't want to say any. I don't want to be too harsh. They didn't use the creativity that they probably could have used, because they were probably sticking to like safety guidelines of, the giant Disney corporation. And in that circumstance, it's like, dude, you could have gotten better ideas if you just typed in like Star Wars plot points in the
Fan
AI
fiction
thing. Yeah, I mean, there was tons of good ideas out there to use that were already presented in previous fan fiction and video games and all kinds of stuff that people had made. It's like, it's right there in front of you and you're just not using all this great stuff. That's a circumstance where I could see people being like, we don't want to sit down and think about creative ideas. Let's just pump something out and make a bunch of money off of it. I could see people doing that with AI. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's kind of what I was referring to with the art stuff, where people like are selling digital prints on Etsy from like a picture that they like took 2 seconds to generate, and I was like, oh, I'll put it online, see who buys it. But yeah, okay, interesting. See, wouldn't be opposed to easy. And then I guess the other thing is like, I do like, I really like your perspective on that though, actually, of like, as long as you have a good internal sense of what you're trying to accomplish and making sure things align with that, then like the results will be good, I think. And with the corporations too, like making Star Wars, it almost feels like that's a type of computer algorithm where they're like trying to appease all these like different, factors and like Disney and all that stuff. And so it's like,
I think their script was written by marketers, not writers.
Yeah. So it's kind of like a mechanic process anyway, or a mechanical process anyway, rather than like an organic or a creative one.
Yeah, definitely.
Interesting. And then my only other question mostly was, so basically, if you're using something like this for prompts and inspiration, like, and it's coming from this artificial intelligence, is that true inspiration? Or like, what ties do creativity and inspiration have together? Is it just things that spring up from information in the world, or is it, like, where does that come from? Is it true creativity if a computer does it? Or is it inspiration?
I know. Well, see, that's where you get back to the idea of what is true inspiration to begin with, And I think this is something that you and I have talked about in the past, because it's like, do you really have the rights to your own thoughts? Like, are your thoughts in your brain truly your own original thoughts? Or are those planted there, either by the way you've been raised, your nurturing around you, the way that your parents raised you, the TV shows you watched? I mean, we don't really have a lot of original thoughts. Like, if you think of a pink elephant, there is no such thing as a pink elephant, but there are such things as pink, and there are such things as elephants, and you can put it together. I mean, we don't really have the ability to create a lot of stuff that's like purely generated out of nothing except your own imagination in your brain. Like, we kind of just take stuff from what we know. So it's like, when it comes down to the idea of like it would be gibberish. I mean, what truly is like an original thought, like your own true inspiration? I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, outside of God's brain, I don't know if anybody really has a brain that's able to create true, original ideas truly, So when it comes to AI, it's like, if you're asking the question, is that true inspiration? Like, I don't know if any of it's true inspiration, really. So I would say, it probably isn't true inspiration, but neither is me just staring at the wall and thinking of an idea,
Yeah. Yeah, I guess that is interesting, because I guess for me, I do think that a lot of that inspiration or like truly unique thoughts come from, God, and they're like outside the physical realm of whatever. But I think the way like you explained inspiration of like, drawing from shows or things you've seen or, people you've interacted with and stuff, I think that's actually like a very common way of getting new ideas, and is almost exactly what the AI does, because all these like data models, like they're literally just, the data had to come from somewhere, which is people. And so they're pulling in all these ideas and basically doing what people do. Like when an artist, sits down to paint, they're pulling from their own visual library of, places they've been and things they've seen and other paintings that have inspired them. And so, then they create a new work based on all these inputs that they've had. And so essentially, the artificial intelligence is doing the same thing, but at a scale. So like the way, like, so now I think what's interesting is that it's almost like a pyramid, so like you have your one idea, and then it's made up like of 100 different ideas, say, that you've had in your life, right? Of like things you've seen, been inspired by. With the artificial intelligence now, it has like 10 million things it's seen or, taken in, and then it presents you this one idea. And now I think as a person, if you were to have, maybe 50 of these AI models that have all seen, 10 million things down way at the bottom, and you see like these 100 different AIs, it's like a distilled version of these like 10, 500 million things or whatever that you're seeing. So you're almost like seeing the essence of like exponentially more things. if that makes sense.
Yeah, that does make sense to me.
Yeah. I don't know. But yeah, so those are my thoughts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Crazy, man. The idea of true inspiration and how it comes into existence, whether it's from AI or brains or man, all kinds of deep stuff to think about there. Crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you're going to have to, everybody's going to have to think about it in the next 5 years. So, or, I mean, I guess some people go with the flow, but I think people that don't think about it are going to, it's like people that got taken over by social media and didn't realize like why they were so miserable. It'll be this like a similar way, I think, where people will be like extra caught off guard by it and taken over by it, but don't know why, and just because they've gone with the flow and taken it all for granted, I guess.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, whole new realms of study and human psychology to open up with that for sure.
Mm-hmm. So that inspires me. What inspires you, Brandon Cope?
Yeah, Brand. Yeah, I said, yeah, you're Paul Lafayette and I'm Brat Lantis. Berlantis.
Berlantis.
Maybe bro. What's up, bro? Berlantis.
Avatar. Everything I watched about that movie afterwards, like, you know, all the parody channels, everything was like starting out with bro. It was so funny.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I haven't even watched any parody stuff on it, so I'll have to look up some funny things, but yeah. Well, I think what inspires me right now is, more themed with our season. So New Year's. And, you know, I have done, I've never done New Year's resolutions before, but I have actually done kind of the next level up where I set kind of goals for my year and I really sit down and I write them down and I think very detailed about them and I get really specific. And I've been doing this for, I think 4 or maybe 5 years. And I've got documentation of goals going back to like 2019 and older, where they were pretty simplistic back then, and just looking back on different things that like, wow, I accomplished that, or I did those things, or I made those changes in life, you know, and just kind of the how inspiring it is that if you really set your mind to do something and you focus on it, you write it down, you keep yourself accountable with people around you, you're really intentional in getting that thing done, like you can really make some crazy changes in life, you know? And so this past weekend, just to share a specific story of my goal setting experience that I've had, I went with my wife and several other friends. We went out to this cabin in the woods, like an hour and a half out of town over in Montana. And we were just kind of sitting by a river, and it's all snowy, and it's for New Year's, the weekend for New Year's. And in the morning on Saturday, I got up with them. We had breakfast. We all sat down. There were 8 of us. We all sat down around a big table, pulled open our notepads, and I just sort of ran through, hey, how do we set goals for this next year? You know, to be really intentional about it, not just sort of superficial New Year's resolutions. I want to eat more healthy and I want to lose weight and I want to like read more books, whatever. I want to go to the gym more. You know, it's like everybody kind of says the same things and doesn't really mean anything, you know? So how do we like be serious and kind of target different areas of life? And I took them through a little process, and I wanted to just sort of like overview that process and then ask you some questions on it. But you know, I asked them like, what are you thankful for in terms of your last year? Like so many people look at their previous year of life and they look at it with some cynicism or regrets, or, oh yeah, 2022, like kind of a crappy year. Next year will be better. You know, people almost all the time, I hear people like look on previous years as like, oh gosh, my past, like not a lot of great stuff happened, but yeah, I'm optimistic for the future. And it's like, there's tons of good stuff that happens in a year of time. We just forget about it, you know? So look back on your year and think about what was the good stuff that happened, you know? And, you know, then I ask people like, what's the purpose of your life in this next year? You know, like think about what are you, like, who are you trying to become? What's the big umbrella idea of like this year, 2023? What are you trying to accomplish with your life? Who are you trying to be, you know?
Hitting them with the hard hitters at like 7:30 in the morning.
No, it was more like,
who do you want to be?
It was more like 10 a.m. You know,
Okay.
we were sleeping in. Yeah, we weren't.
Nice.
We weren't. Yeah, we were playing. We were up late the night before doing a murder mystery thing, so you know, we weren't
Nice.
really like waking up early. Yeah.
So someone came to breakfast. I want to be a detective.
Yeah. Actually, wait, I just forgot. I did actually wake up early. Not everybody woke up early, but I specifically woke up at 5:30 a.m. to watch soccer in Europe with my friend Robbie. So actually, I did wake up early. I forgot about that. Anyway. So yeah, you know, okay. So yeah, we're talking about how to be thankful for the last year. What's your purpose in the next year? So looking backwards, kind of looking forward. And then we were talking about what are different areas of your life that are a priority to you. You know, your faith, your relationships, your health, your finances, your career, maybe something that's like your play and your relaxation. What are different like areas of life that you hold as priorities to kind of compartmentalize, even though these areas do kind of have some crossover with them, just to kind of put them in specific categories. How do you categorize them? Write out some details for them. I want to have 10 minutes of silence and prayer every morning when I wake up. I want to do this intentional thing where I do a long distance phone call with a friend every week. I want to try to go into the gym at least 3 times a week. I want to have no sugar and alcohol in the month of January and do sober October, and I want to get into the keto diet. I'm going to try the keto diet later. You know, I'm just sort of spitballing random things that came up in the conversation, all those kinds of goals. And, you know, for me, this is like my, you know, I've done this many times. So for me, it's fun because I look back on previous years with those documents and I look at these goals I've done. I know that I can accomplish these things because I've accomplished stuff in the past. Not that you accomplish everything, but just there's several goals that you'll list that you will get done. And it gives you a confidence in yourself. And for the newer folks who had never done this before, it was fun because I think I helped them get a lot of inspiration and confidence in themselves that like, hey, you guys can write something down, be intentional about it, and create new habits in your life, make healthy changes, get things done that you want to get done, be a productive person. Like there's a lot that you can do when you really focus on these things and you try to take baby steps and build it into something bigger, you know?
Yeah, I think sometimes people just need to be like believed in by someone else before they can do it themselves, you know? Like if you tell them, that, hey, you can do it, you know? It's like even that I think gives people a little bit of a boost.
Yeah. Yeah. Every impossible task, flying to the moon, you can just break it down into bite-sized pieces. And if you get the facility, you get a team together, you do the research, you spend years getting there, eventually you put the American flag on the moon. You know, somebody stepped down on that rock and they filmed it all in Hollywood and it wasn't real. No, you know, whatever it is, you know, they something actually happened, right? Somebody accomplished something.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
so,
that'd be pretty nuts to just be like out in the night sky being like, I want to get up there. How would I do that?
yeah. You know, how do you go from this idea to it's done, you know? It's kind of crazy. But, you know, that's something that I think has really inspired me over the years. And just recently with New Year's, thinking of that and running through that whole process with a group of people and reflecting on that was really inspiring for me this past weekend. And so for you, I wanted to ask, has there ever been something that's like been a long-term goal for you that maybe you wrote it down, you told people, I'm going to do this thing. And maybe it took you changing aspects of your lifestyle or just bite-sized steps that it's like you wanted to do this thing, time goes by, and you were able to accomplish it. You did that thing. Have you ever had any kind of like big goals like that in life?
Yeah, a few.
Yeah.
I think probably the hardest one I've done was getting my Hungarian citizenship. That one felt pretty daunting to do. Just because I didn't speak the language or anything. So I basically, like that was kind of coinciding with living in Hungary too. So it was a lot of like I put in my application, like while I was in the States still, and then I went over there and then I had to get a visa and stuff. So that was kind of tricky and took a lot of, you know, trips to the consul and all this kind of stuff. But yeah, so that was kind of like a goal I set out to do. wanting a motorcycle is another one. I had to like ask my mom every day for like 200 days, in a row to to try to get that one. So that was just a matter of persistence. The building the yurt out here.
That's what I was thinking of. Yeah.
Yeah. So from starting as like a crazy idea of like, hey, we should just build a place. Like, how hard could that be? I could learn some plumbing. I could learn, whatever to
electrical.
Yeah. All of a sudden, like I'm wiring my own housings power into the grid and stuff and not frying myself. Like, whoa. Okay. That gives you some confidence, I guess, that you can learn stuff. But there's been things. I think for me, like, it is interesting. Like with those long-term goals, like some things you don't get a choice in whether they're long-term or short-term. I guess for me, like a lot of the choices seem like they could just be made on the short-term, like, going to the gym more. It's like, I don't know. I don't feel like I need to write a goal for that as much because it's like, I could just go do that tomorrow if I feel like I need to, or if that's important to me. But some things like do become long-term goals just naturally, like, I guess building a house. It's like you can say you want that to be your goal, but it's going to be the next, 6 months to a year of your life, whether you want to or not, But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, those are some of my bigger goals for sure.
Yeah, I think there are things that are goals of accomplishment versus goals of a process. Like going to the gym is creating a habit. You don't ever get to a point where it's like, I went to the gym 3 times, so now I never have to go again. It's like, well, exercise as a general topic in life, or eating healthy, getting enough sleep, are things you like want to do until you die. They're not really things that like, I got at least 1,000 hours of sleep throughout my life. Isn't that good? Like, I should not need to sleep anymore. It's like, no, those are more like processes, versus like you built the yurt, like now it's done, you don't have to like go build another yurt, you did it. And so I do think that there's like different types of goals, and the way that you can like trigger yourself to do a goal and like set a new habit can be different for people. Some people have like the natural built-in like discipline that like, okay, I'm going to go to the gym tomorrow because I decided that. And some people it's like, I will never stop eating potato chips until I just stop buying them. And I need to like write a sticky note on my refrigerator that says like, never buy, potato chips. And that's the only way I'm going to like not buy those and eat them. Whatever it is. Sometimes it's like you need something that's like right in your face to like make you change behaviors. So yeah.
I do think some people maybe have a personality temperament that gets maybe more dopamine or something from completing goals. I think there is like some sort of, I don't know exactly what the personality type is, but like someone who's more process oriented or more rigid, I guess, or something. Like there's like almost a security in like, repeated actions, or there's some sort of comfort in like being able to do things day after day, and like they like the routine and they like that kind of stuff. So I think for them, like goals are probably more just natural to like how they operate in the world, and becomes like just an easier thing to do. For me, that's not necessarily, well, I don't know. Like I've been it's kind of interesting that you mentioned this, because I've been just doing more like to-do lists and stuff. And like, that's been something that's really good for me, is just not even like stuff I have to do, but just stuff that like I want to do or that interests me. And so I just put it all down on the list, and then I can go like in the morning and just look at that list and be like, oh, is there anything that sparks my interest today? So it's not necessarily like one thing or a process that I'm trying to complete, but it is a series of interests and goals that like are like just more potential for me. And then in the moment I can pick one of those things and be like, well, I was interested in this at one point, so maybe I'll be interested in it again.
Yeah. I've always thought of it as creating structure to your life. And I actually think of it in terms of that movie Memento with that Christopher Nolan made. you know, where everything goes backwards and he has that memory problem. And I think of it like
all the tattoos with reminders.
He's got his tattoos with reminders and stuff like that. That's why I tattooed all my goals on. No, I didn't.
How efficient.
I got like a roll of fat down here and it's like, I will lose this. No.
You're gone in 2024, sucker.
Yeah. No, I was thinking about how in Memento, if he doesn't write something down, it's erased from his mind. It's gone. You know, if he doesn't write somebody's name down or a place or take a photo of something. And so I'm going to give people listening a spoiler alert. So plug your ears if you don't want to have Memento ruined here. But he does that thing where you get to the end of the movie and you can see where he takes a photo of that one guy and he like writes something down about it. I can't remember what it is, but he basically sets himself on the path of like, I'm going to find this person and like possibly kill this guy, you know, like I am going to like get to this end conclusion. And so I think about that for myself. It's like, I want to eventually get this thing done. So what like weird thing do I need to like set in my path now to basically remember this and do it and like make that thing done? If I want to write a book, then I need to get up and do a little bit of writing every single day of my life. What do I need to do right now, like Memento, that will make me remember that and like make me do that thing so that I know I've like triggered myself to go down this path of eventually getting a book done, you know, or writing a manuscript. Like that's kind of how I think of it with goals, is it's like I'm basically just sort of tricking myself to change directions and path in life so that I end up doing what I want to do eventually later on. That's what I think of it like.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Like tricking yourself is interesting language. What is like, why are you tricking yourself?
I think I use the word trick because a lot of times these are things that when you think of the idea of like writing a book, like I was talking about landing on the moon, you think of some goal, some activity that's like, whoa, that's a huge thing to accomplish. Writing a book is like a ton of work. Landing on the moon is a ton of work. I think that the trick is giving it to yourself in such a way that it doesn't seem like it's a ton of work anymore. If I take the idea of I need to write an entire book, that's daunting. That's overwhelming. I don't want to do that. That's scary. But if I say, I just want to write 100 words this morning, it's like, sure, that's easy. Like anybody could just sit down and write 100 words, like no problem, whatever. And so if I kind of trick the perception of what the goal is, I think it makes it more doable for me. And it leads me down that path of like, well, I flipped one page. Well, I could flip the next page. That's easy. And eventually you've read the entire book. So that's, I think, the tricking psychology component when it comes to the goals.
I see. Yeah. So it's just a part of accomplishing your goal is setting up enough of those mental tricks to get you to the end. Yeah,
to get you to the end. Like if you think about it, there's all kinds of stuff that you'll do in your life just because things are either convenient. I'll watch another TV show just because Netflix auto-played it, and so I guess I'll watch the next episode, whatever. Or
they all know that, yeah.
Yeah, or it's like, oh, you know, my phone is readily next to me, so it's easy for me to just turn it on and look through something interesting, you know, because it's like right there in front of me, so why not? Oh, I've got these snacks in this bowl right here on the table. I'll just eat a few because they're right there. You know, it's like there's all kinds of things you do in life just because they're convenient. So if you take stuff you want to do in life, just make that thing more convenient, and you've basically tricked yourself into doing that thing. If I want to read a book, I pull that book off of the shelf and I put it right on top of my computer, or I put it right here on the coffee table in plain sight, where it's like I'm going to see that and touch it and interact with that on almost a daily basis because I made it convenient for me. So if I want to pick it up and like read a couple pages, then sure, I'll do that because it's right there. I see it. So I've sort of tricked myself into accomplishing something, you know?
Yeah. Is there a balance between that and I guess like trying to like acknowledge your I don't know, maybe not desires is the right word, but like your interests. Like, so for instance, if you were to like start reading a book, but like halfway through you lost interest, are you just always going to try to finish that book because it was like something you started out to do? Or do you ever like allow yourself to be like, actually, I'm not feeling this book anymore, and like I'm just going to put it away and not have any regrets about that?
Right. Yeah. No, I think that it just depends on priorities. Like, speaking of official documents and stuff, a while ago, I got my Idaho driver's license. Took me like 2 years to finally get that thing. Nice. And look, I did not want to read the Idaho driver's license handbook manual thing. I just made myself get up and read it. Like, intuitively, it was not interesting, but I had to do that so that I could get my driver's license, right? So I finally did it.
If you hit an elk.
Yeah, I was like, here we go. I did this. A while ago, I was reading another book. I can't remember what the book was, actually, because I put it down. But there was a big book that I picked up, read through a couple chapters. It's kind of interesting, but like, I don't really want to keep reading this. So I made a decision. I'm going to take it off of my convenient location and put it back on the bookshelf because I don't really care to finish this book anymore. So, yeah, I definitely think that you need to have that self-reflection to decide if you want to cut out, I've set a trigger for myself. I'm going down this path. I decided I don't want to go down this path anymore. Let me set a different trigger so that I change and I get off of this path. I don't want to do that, You
sound like you'd be a good dog trainer or something.
Click. More like a human trainer. All right. Yeah. Arise out of bed at 5 a.m. Here you go. Eat breakfast. Eggs. No seasoning, just eggs.
Right? Yeah.
Now read books for 2 hours and practice your French. Play piano. Dance. Dance faster.
Go, monkey. Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm sure there's a niche for that. You could hire yourself out.
I think it's called life coaching.
Yeah.
Anyway,
what a gig, man.
Yeah.
If you can't figure out your own life, go manage someone else's.
Yeah. Anyway, but that's my inspiration is, just the idea of setting goals, accomplishing them, giving yourself focus in life. I think that people are capable of doing so much more than they give themselves credit for, because either they just don't focus on what they're trying to do, or sometimes I think people just have self-limiting beliefs and it's like, oh, I could never do something like that. And I feel like when you do goals and you really write things down and you make an effort to try to do something in just a bite-sized way, you can accomplish stuff that you never thought you'd be able to do. You get more confidence, you overcome self-limiting beliefs. And I think that you actually have the focus and the intention to get stuff done. And eventually, a year goes by, a couple of years goes by, and you're like, whoa, I did that thing, or I'm way further along in that thing than I ever thought I would be. And once you get that feeling of like, wow, I can do stuff in life, it's like addicting. And I think that people become
empowered.
Yeah, they get really empowered to like really make huge changes in their life. So I just always feel like, with this season of New Year's resolutions, the idea of goal setting, I just think it's really inspiring to see how people can change.
And now with artificial intelligence, you could write a book tomorrow in a day.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you go to AI and be like, what should be my life goals?
Pretty much. It'll tell you some weird stuff, so watch out. Like, it's funny, one of the biggest the labels, like right as you're like opening it up, it's like, this is not meant for life advice. Like, please do not follow anything that says.
Oh, that's
or
funny.
Whatever. Yeah.
You should buy this product.
Yeah.
That the algorithm said that you might like to have.
Yeah. Well, it knows me better than I know myself, so I should buy these toilet wipes. No, is there any goals that you want to share so we can keep you all accountable on the podcast? No, I'm just kidding. But if there's any you want to share for this upcoming year, I'd be curious to hear one.
Yeah. I mean, one of my goals that I've had for several years has always been to read 60 books every year, and either paper, ebook, audiobook, doesn't really matter. I just want to get the information. I don't know if I've read any kids books. I don't know, but it could be fiction, nonfiction, biographies, whatever. And just to challenge myself to learn new things and have diversity of thought and whatever. And I've done that for, I don't know, 4 or 5 years or so. But now with really focusing on getting my own book published and feeling like, just some of the books that I've read kind of go in circles. And I feel like in this past year, I was reading books that I already kind of know what this book is going to say. I've already read something similar to this. I don't really need to read this, but it's semi-interesting, and I kind of want to read it so that I hit my 60 books, So I think one of the harder goals actually is kind of to get out of the habit of addictive reading of things and get more into the habit of just creating more content, because now I feel like I have so many ideas of my own. I don't need to generate more ideas. I just need to create more ideas. Yeah. So I think now it's more about make podcasting, YouTube, writing books, getting the stuff published, business, things like that. So a lot of my goals are more focused on that type of stuff. Let's see, I think, I'm going to have a few different dietary goals, cutting out dairy, cutting out alcohol for a couple different months, cutting out sugar for a couple different months. Going to try to get to...
What are you going to eat, man?
I don't just consume alcohol for all my meals or whatever. Yeah, I mean, my meals are going to be more paleo, more Whole30 kind of meals, probably stuff like that.
Yeah. That's always the question every time when you say you're cutting something, people are like, well, what are you going to eat?
Well, what else is there to eat except bacon and whiskey? Yeah. It's impossible.
Yeah.
I mean, in North Idaho, that's probably a realistic question, but, yeah, I don't know.
My mom, if I don't eat meat for a month, she's like, well, what do you eat then? How are you getting your protein? How you this, that? Yeah.
Okay, that's cool. The universe. Yeah, no. So those are just some basic goals. I think I've got a goal I want to buy flowers for my wife twice a month. I realized that flowers only last for about 2 weeks max. So after 2 weeks, if I want to keep my wife replenished with flowers, I need to every 2 weeks buy new ones.
There you go.
I want to do, long distance phone calls, on a weekly basis. I actually already did one earlier today, so that was good.
Nice.
Just some stuff like that.
That's cool, man.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, I'm glad you kept yourself inspired and everybody else that you went to that retreat or the New Year's thing with.
Yeah. Thanks, dude.
That's cool. Yeah. Doing it in the podcast and in real life.
That's right. That's right. For all the folks listening, go to the AI thing and ask it for some New Year's resolutions. Maybe that's the next step for people. Be inspired. I don't know.
Ask it for some inspiration and do whatever it tells you to.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, man.
And the first thing it'll tell you to do is like and subscribe to our videos.
That's correct. Yeah. Yes.
I could just you don't even have to type that in. That's what it'll tell you. I know it.
That's goal number 1 for everyone listening is subscribe to whatever platform you found us on.
Yeah. All right. Until next time, thanks for chatting, and we'll see you later.
Peace out, people.